ready for some Miami Heat basketball with Deron Butler on Kendall Sports Network.
And good Tuesday evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Deron Butler, welcoming you to another edition of Heat Zone Live, courtesy of Kendall Sports Network. Tonight, the Miami Heat are on a 4-game road trip as they make their first stop at the Target Center for a rematch from last Saturday night against Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, Dante DiVincenzo, Jaden McDaniels, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. This one should be another high-scoring, fun matchup between these two teams. And I do have my 3 keys for tonight's game. Key number 1, defense and hustle needs to be on display. Looking back at last Sunday night's game against the New Orleans Pelicans, Miami showed a lot of defensive heart and grit, as well as hustle and determination. Now, if they provide that same defensive mentality and hustle against Minnesota in the rematch tonight, I think the Heat are going to have the better advantage. Because looking back from last Saturday night's game, the Timberwolves took advantage of the Heat's lax defense, which allowed Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert to go off, as well as Julius Randle. So if the Heat can manage to keep that defensive pressure and intensity at a high, as well as the intensity on the hustle department, I think the Heat will have the Timberwolves number in that game. Key number 2 is to rough it up in the paint. Miami has some bigs, of course, Bam Adebayo and Kelly Ware, and of course Minnesota has some bigs of their own in Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert. But to me, I think it's going to come down to who has the more strength and who has the more intensity. I believe Kelly Ware can outmuscle Rudy Gobert. I think Bam Adebayo can go board for board, bang for bang with Julius Randle. If the Heat can manage to muck it up in the paint and just keep Minnesota on their toes in that area, I think that's going to be a difference maker for them. And last and certainly not least, we need to see a lot of offense from the Heat. Again, going back from a few games, the Heat have been finding that dictation that dictating the pace and flow of each game has helped them in a big way. The Heat needs to get back to that mindset of not only defensive pressure and hustle and intensity, but also dictating the pace and flow of the offense. And that's something that the bench does as well. The Heat's bench have been phenomenal as of late with guys like Jaime Jaquez Jr., Pelle Larsson, just to name a few, and of course Nikola Jovic. But definitely some pacing as well as contesting for every rebound on both ends of the floor. Offense and especially defense to give yourselves a chance to get back into the game. And yes, this Heat game against the Minnesota Timberwolves is nationally televised on NBC. I mean, me reminiscing on the days of watching the Miami Heat on NBC on nationally televised games, going against the likes of the New York Knicks, Chicago Bulls, Indiana Pacers in the 90s with Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway, P.J. Brown, Dan Marley, Keith Askins, Rashawn Leonard. That takes me back. And what a time to be alive. What a time to witness great basketball this season, especially now on NBC. So this one takes me back, and I'm glad to see the Miami Heat getting some shine on national TV. So right now, the players are warming up. We'll have player introductions very soon, and as well as opening tip-off. The Heat and the Timberwolves in a rematch, this time at Target Center. And I'll have the play-by-play ready for you. Keep it locked here on Kendall Sports Network. right. And we are back. Here are the starting lineups for your Miami Heat. We have Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, and Kel'el Ware in the starting lineup. Of course, your head coach for the Miami Heat is Eric Spoelstra. And let's see the starting lineups for the Minnesota Timberwolves. As I mentioned before, the starting lineups for the Minnesota Timberwolves include Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniel, and Dante DiVincenzo. So right now we're looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves' introduction. Very, very ominous, very epic. In terms of who can come off the bench and become an X factor for the Timberwolves, I have two players that the Heat will need to look out for. The first is Mike Conley, of course, the former Memphis Grizzlies All-Star guard, and Naz Reid, who can definitely body somebody in the paint as well as knock down threes. So those are the two players you need to look out for. And the Minnesota Timberwolves are rocking those Kevin Garnett era jerseys. Those were some very fly jerseys, by the way. So yes, we have Dante DiVincenzo, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, and Anthony Edwards starting for the Minnesota Timberwolves, as I mentioned before. As for the key matchup, I did talk about the battle in the paint between Randle and Gobert taking on Bam and Kel'el. But I want to see who can go basket for basket against Anthony Edwards. Is it going to be Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, or maybe somebody off the bench like Pelle Larsson or Jaime Jaquez Jr.? So this one should be a very fun, interesting matchup. And the head coach for the Minnesota Timberwolves is Chris Finch. So both of these teams look eagerly poised to start this game right now. You already got player introductions all of the way. And when we come back, we will have opening tip-off. All right, we are back, ready to begin tonight's game. Both teams are more than hyped for this one. We see Rudy Gobert, we see Bam Adebayo, Anthony Edwards getting hyped, Norman Powell. This one should be a fun rematch. All right, so we're waiting for opening tip-off. All right, so we are about to begin very soon. And Minnesota wins the tip-off. And here we go for tonight's game. Anthony Edwards bringing it up to the floor. Guarded by Davion Mitchell. Ball almost knocked loose. Anthony Edwards knocked down the three to get Minnesota on the board. And here comes Miami now. Davion Mitchell gives it to Wiggins. Wiggins, a former Minnesota Timberwolf in his own right. Ball's knocked loose. It's going to be a kickball violation on Minnesota. So it'll be Heat ball. All right, here comes the Heat. They give it to Norman Powell. Back to Bam for three. Bam rims out. Rebound by Kelly Ware. To Norman Powell. And go Norman Powell Ranger. That's a three to tie the game for Miami. Last Sunday's game, Norman Powell was on fire. He was like a human torch. He was so fantastic from three. And there's a rebound for Bam Adebayo. Passes it out to Norman Powell. Another three. Go Norman Powell Ranger. Another three for Miami. Send him to the All-Star game. Along with Kelly Ware and Bam Adebayo. But still, send him to the All-Star game. Here comes Norman Powell again. Pass it out to Davion Mitchell. To Wiggins. Wiggins. That rims out. Rebound by Minnesota. But it's recovered by... Nope. Not recovered by Miami. That's going to be a reach-in foul. And Anthony Edwards is clutching his knee. Hopefully it's nothing serious. But Minnesota will have the ball side out. All right, here comes Anthony Edwards being guarded by Davion Mitchell. Edwards now. McDaniel setting the pick. Here comes Ant for three. And the Ant-Man ties it up for Minnesota. We're all tied at 6. Here comes Davion Mitchell. Gives it to Wiggins. To Bam. Bam being guarded by Gobert. Bam with a step back. He knocks it down. And Miami retakes the lead. And that's going to be an error on Minnesota. That's going to be Heat ball. A costly error by Minnesota. Plain not thinking on that one. And that's going to be right back for the Heat. All right, here comes Norman Powell again. Ooh, with a nice spin move. And he gets the basket. And the Heat go up by 4. All right, and here comes Julius Randle being guarded by Bam. Gives it to McDaniels. Misses it. Rebound by Kelly Ware. And here comes Bam. Gives the ball to Davion Mitchell. Mitchell flying through. Gets his own rebound. Passes it out to Chief Andrew Wiggins. 3 for Miami. And the Heat right now have a 7-point lead. Miami Heat right now 75% from three-point land. Whereas the Wolves 50% from the field. And as Rudy Gobert with an uncontested dunk. Nice assist from Julius Randle. Here comes Davion Mitchell again. Davion passes it out to Bam. And just like that, an uncontested dunk from Kelly Ware. Tit for tat between these two teams as the Heat leads go up by 7. Here goes Rudy Gobert. To Julius Randle for 3. And that's a no-go. Here comes Davion Mitchell. Gives it to Norman Powell. Back to Davion for 3. That's a miss. An air ball, if you will. And that one's going to go right out of bounds. It will be Minnesota ball. I mean, both teams are hustling right now. But I think Miami's winning the 3-point percentage game. Here comes Anthony Edwards. Gives it to Julius Randle, being guarded by Kelly Ware. Julius Randle, a step back. He misses it. Rebound by Bam, and here come the Heat. Davion Mitchell has it. Norman Powell for 3. That's a miss. Ball's recovered by Miami. Bam gives it to Davion Mitchell for 3. That's another miss. Rebound by Kelly Ware. Nope. Gives it to Minnesota. Here comes Anthony Edwards. The Ant-Man. Almost got fouled, but it's recovered by Miami. Here comes Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins guarded by the Ant-Man. Here comes Wiggins. Flying to the lane. Gives it to Kelly Ware. Kelly Ware backing down Rudy Gobert, but doesn't make the basket. Here comes Dante DiVincenzo. Looking for the alley-oop with Ant-Man, but does not get it. Broken up by Bam. It goes out of bounds, but it will be Minnesota's ball. So far, this is a fast-paced game. Right, here comes DiVincenzo. Gobert setting the pick. That's a missed 3. Rebound by Kelly Ware. Here comes Norman Powell. Powell driving through the lane. Alley-oop to Kelly Superboy Ware. And the Heat's lead go up by 9. All right, here comes Andrew Wiggins guarding Julius Randle. And Julius Randle gets the basket. The Wolves trail by 7. And here comes Davion Mitchell. Passes the ball to Andrew Wiggins. Out to Bam. Bam in the corner being guarded by Rudy Gobert, but he somehow gets the layup. It was looking for the foul, but he gets the layup regardless. The Heat lead by 9. Here comes Julius Randle. Randle being guarded by Norman Powell. Randle backing him down. Randle going for the basket. He gets it. And the Wolves trail by 7 again. Here come the Heat. Bam thought about going for the 3. He's being guarded by Gobert. He gives it to Davion Mitchell. Davion being guarded by the Ant-Man. Davion missing that one. Rebound by the Ant-Man. Here comes Anthony Edwards. Ant-Man showing off some style. Hits a 3. That's a no-go. Rebound by Kelly Ware. And here comes Bam. Andrew Wiggins missing that basket. So far, both teams have been putting up bricks. And here comes Julius Randle being guarded by Bam. Gives it to Anthony Edwards. Ant-Man tries to score for it, but he gets fouled. Anthony Edwards will go to the line for 2 free throws. So far, you gotta love the Heat's hustle and their speed right now on offense. They have been getting after it and they are attacking the paint. But right now, we're gonna call ourselves a timeout. Score is 19-12, Miami. And we are back. Score is 19-12 Miami. Anthony Edwards is at the line for 2 free throws for the Timberwolves. Nikola Jovic is now in the game for Miami. We also see Mike Conley in the game for Minnesota. Tyler Hero, we haven't seen him. We haven't seen a lot of him this season. He's now in the game for the Heat. Hopefully we can get some offensive production from him. And Edwards makes both free throws. So it's now a 5-point game. Here comes Edwards. Here comes Davion Mitchell, being guarded by Mike Conley. Kicks it out. Here comes Bam. Bam missing that fadeaway. And here comes Minnesota. Mike Conley gives it to the Ant-Man, being guarded by Norman Powell. Ball's knocked loose, and that will be last touch by Miami. It will be Minnesota's ball. All right. Anthony Edwards inbounds the ball. Gives it to Gobert. Here's McDaniels being guarded by Norman Powell. Gives it to the Ant-Man. The Ant-Man being guarded by Davion Mitchell. Misses the basket under duress, and here comes the Heat. Here comes Norman Powell gets fouled. Looks like that foul was on McDaniels. A nice defensive sequence from both Norman Powell and Davion Mitchell, slowing down Anthony Edwards at the basket. All right, here comes Miami, and another foul called on the Wolves. This one on Anthony Edwards. All right, here comes Davion Mitchell. Gives it to Norman Powell. Ball goes sailing out of bounds, and it will be Minnesota's ball. All right, here comes Mike Conley, being guarded by Tyler Hero. Gives it to McDaniels for 3. He misses it. Rebound by Tyler Hero. Here comes Nikola Jovic. Jovic in a hurry. Loses the ball, and here comes Minnesota. McDaniels flying through. Gives it to Rudy Gobert for the dunk. And Minnesota now trails by 3. All right, here comes Miami. All right, they're swinging the ball around. They give it to Norman Powell. Gets fouled, and he will go to the line. That foul's going to be on Anthony Edwards. So I think that's going to be 2 fouls on the Ant-Man. All right, so Anthony Edwards is coming out of the game. He does not look pleased about that. So I guess Miami will have it side out. Excuse me. Here comes Tyler Hero. Hero flying through. Kicks it out to Pelle Larsson. Back to Hero. Hero loses the ball, and here comes Minnesota again. Mike Conley now has it, being guarded by Pelle Larsson. For 3, Mike Conley misses it, and here come the Heat. Tyler Hero kicks it out to Pelle Larsson. Larsson quickly gives it to Bam. Bam out to Jovic. Here comes Nikola Jovic. Woo! That was a nice play. And the Heat go up by 5. And here comes Minnesota. McDaniels missing the layup, and is rebounded by Miami. Here comes Minnesota. Tyler Superhero knocks down the 3 for Miami, and the Heat lead go up to 8. here comes Nas Reed for three. And he misses it. Rebound by Miami. And the ball goes sailing right out of Jovic's hands. So that's gonna be another error on Miami. And it'll be right back to Minnesota. And we're gonna have ourselves a timeout as Miami leads 24-16. And we are back. Score is 24-16 Miami. Norman Powell, he has been on fire so far. And even in Miami right now, he has found his groove. And I'll let see him groove into the All-Star game. Because he deserves it. Right now, Drew Smith is in the game for Miami. Nas Reed gets the layup. And the Wolves trail by 6. Alright, here comes Nikola Jovic now. Gives it to Drew Smith. Out to Pelle Larsson. Here comes Larsson. And Larsson gets the basket under the rest. It is back to an 8-point lead. And that's going to be a foul on Drew Smith. That will send Jaden McDaniels to the line. Alright, Jaden McDaniels makes the first. And he makes both free throws. So it's back to a 6-point game. Alright, here comes Drew Smith, being guarded by Mike Conley. Hero gives it to Nikola Jovic. Back to Hero. Here comes Hero. Wheeling and dealing. Passes it out to Drew Smith. Corner three. And Drew Hill Smith, the three from Miami. As the Heat go up by 9. Alright, here comes Jaden McDaniels. Uncontested layup, and no, that's an uncontested dunk. Excuse me. A free ticket to the lane. As the Wolves trail by 7. Here comes Tyler Hero. Ball knocked loose, goes sailing out of bounds. Last touch by Minnesota. Jaden McDaniels took off like he owned the rim. And he dunked it with authority on that one. Alright, here comes Tyler Hero. Jovic for 3. And that rims out. And here comes Minnesota. Nas Reed open 3. No go. Rebound by Tyler Hero. Passes it out to Drew Smith. Back to Tyler Hero. Here comes Tyler Hero. Misses the basket. Rebound by Julius Randle. Alright, and here comes Julius Randle. Dribbling around Pelle Larsson. And he gets the layup. The Wolves trail by 5. And here comes Drew Smith. Being guarded by Nas Reed. Alright, Drew Smith. Picking his spot. Here he comes. Gets blocked. But it was last touched by the Wolves. So that one's going to be Heat ball. And that's a missed corner 3. Here come the Wolves. Alright, here comes Mike Conley to Julius Randle. Now 3, open 3. Knocks it down. And now we have ourselves a 2-point game. And that will end the first quarter. Miami leads 29-27. And we are back, ready to begin the second quarter. Miami now has the ball, as Norman Powell was on fire for Miami. So was Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards for Minnesota. So right now the Heat will have possession of the ball in the second quarter. All right, here comes Drew Smith. Carries it up to the floor. Gives it to Nikola Jovic. To Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins. To Jovic. Jovic missing that basket. Rebound by Naz Reid. And here comes Julius Randle. Kicks it out. That's a three on the way. That's a miss. Rebound by Nikola Jovic. Jovic gives it to Tyler Hero. Out to Drew Smith. Back to Hero. Hero finds Drew Smith again. Finds Pelle Larsson. Nikola Jovic gives it to Wiggins. Wiggins missing that basket. And here comes Dante DiVincenzo. Minnesota pushing up ahead. Naz Reid corner three. And he gives them the lead. Naz Reid gives Minnesota the lead with that corner three. And no foul call for Miami. Here comes Edwards. Gives it to Julius Randle. And that's gonna be an and one opportunity for the Wolves. Julius Randle charging right ahead into Pelle Larsson. Right, here comes Julius Randle. He misses the and one opportunity. Rebound by Nikola Jovic. Tyler Hero brings it up to the floor. Minnesota right now on a 12-0 run. Tyler Hero cutting to the lane. Finds Pelle Larsson open for three. And Pelle Larsson ties the game at 32 for Miami. All right, here comes Julius Randle. Gives it to Anthony Edwards. Edwards being guarded by Pelle Larsson. And that's going to be a foul on Miami. A reach-in foul. All right, that's going to send Minnesota to the line. Minnesota misses the first. And Minnesota goes 1 of 2 from the line. Here comes Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero breaks free. And he gets the uncontested layup. And the Heat go up by 1. Here comes Minnesota. They give it to the Ant-Man. Being guarded by Pelle Larsson. That's a corner three. That rims out. Back to Naz Reid. Here comes Julius Randle. Being guarded by Nikola Jovic. Ball is knocked loose. And that one's going to be an over and back on Minnesota. So it'll be Heat ball. Nice heads up play on both ends of the floor for Miami. All right, here comes Tyler Hero. Hero still has the ball. Kicks it out. Nope, he got fouled on the way. That one's going to be on Minnesota. Here comes Drew Smith. Gives it to Jovic. And Jovic will go to the line for 2 free throws. That foul's going to be on Naz Reid. All right, Nikola Jovic will go to the line for 2 free throws. Jovic makes the first. And Jovic goes 1 of 2 from the line. Rebound by Julius Randle. Minnesota bringing it up to the floor. Julius Randle now has it. Here comes Randle. Missing the layup. Rebound by Kelly Ware. Here comes Tyler Hero. Slows down. Gives it to Jovic. Here he comes. Was looking for the foul but doesn't get it. Here comes Anthony Edwards flying in like Soul Train for that dunk. But it looks like, no, they say it's going to be an offensive foul in Minnesota. So it's going to be Heat ball. Edwards does not look pleased about that one. And neither does Wolves head coach Chris Finch. Let's look at it again. Oh, it's a shoving foul. Instead, it's going to be a shoving foul. Oh, wow. Here comes Minnesota. I'm sorry, here comes Miami. Now here comes Minnesota. Anthony Edwards looking to fly through. Kicks it out to Naz Reid. And Naz Reid ties the game with that basket. We're all tied at 35. Here comes Wiggins. Wiggins. And Wiggins with the turnaround jumper. The Heat go up by 2. Alright, Minnesota looking to direct traffic. And I think that's going to be that's going to be goaltending on Miami. So 2 points awarded to Minnesota. So we're all tied up at 37. And Tyler Hero knocks it down, so the Heat retake the lead. All right, here comes Edwards. Edwards flying through. Gets the layup, and we're all tied up at 39. All right, here comes Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins losing the ball. Gets it right back. And stolen away by Minnesota. Here comes Naz Reid. Fast break dunk, and that's going to prompt a Heat timeout. It's been a back and forth battle between these two teams, but Minnesota has the lead right now. The score is 41-39, Minnesota. No? Sure? Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. Score is 41-39 Minnesota. Here comes Miami now. Kelly Ware has it. Open three. He misses it. Rebound by Dante DiVincenzo. Alright, here comes DiVincenzo. Gives it to Nas Reed, to Anthony Edwards. And that's going to be a foul on Miami. This one's going to be on Nikola Jovic. So Edwards most likely will go to the line for 2 free throws. Anthony Edwards knocks down the first. And Anthony Edwards makes both free throws. So we now have ourselves a 4-point game. Here comes Norman Powell, missing the layup, and here comes Minnesota. Anthony Edwards now has it. He flies into the lane. Almost lost the ball. But now it's... and yep, another error pass from Miami. This one's going to be on Kelly Ware. So it's going to go back to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jaden McDaniels back into the game. Nikola Jovic will take a seat. All right, Minnesota will inbound the ball. They give it to Gobert. Here comes the Ant-Man. Right, Minnesota has it. And that's going to be another foul on Miami. This one on Pelle Larsson. All right, Minnesota makes the first. And Minnesota makes both free throws. So it's now a 6-point game. All right, here comes Davion Mitchell. Gives it to Norman Powell. Powell kicks it out to Larsson. Larsson being guarded by the Ant-Man. And that ball goes sailing out of bounds. Last touch by Miami. Minnesota now has control of the ball. Here comes the Ant-Man being guarded by Davion Mitchell. Jaden McDaniels now has it, being guarded by Bam. Here comes Anthony Edwards, gets blocked by Kelly Ware, and here come the Heat in a hurry. Bam now has it. Pelle Larsson, corner three. And that's an air ball, rebound by Minnesota. And here come the Wolves again. Ant-Man missing that one. Rebound goes to Norman Powell. And here comes Pelle Larsson in a hurry. And he gets the fast break layup as the Heat trail by 4. Norman Powell off that assist. And here comes Miami again, and another fast break. Norman Powell for 3. He stops, he pops, and go Norman Powell Ranger! He brings the Heat within 1 with that 3-pointer. And here comes Anthony Edwards. Norman Powell so far in this one has 11 points off 4 for 6 shooting, and just like that, the Ant-Man answers back for the Wolves. Anthony Edwards so far with 4 points, going 4 for 7 shooting from the field. All right, here comes Pelle Larsson, being guarded by Dante DiVincenzo. Out to Norman Powell. Powell for 3 again. No go, and that's a rebound for Minnesota. Here comes Anthony Edwards. Edwards being guarded by Bam. Edwards loses the ball, and that's going to go sailing right out of bounds. Last touch by Miami. All right, here we go. Anthony Edwards has the ball. Goes right out of bounds, but it was last touched by Miami. The Ant-Man will go to the line for 2 free throws. That foul is going to be on Davion Mitchell. Edwards misses the first. And Anthony Edwards goes 1 of 2 from the line. Here comes Norman Powell, gives it to Pelle Larsson. And the rebound goes to Minnesota. Here comes Anthony Edwards. Ant-Man being guarded by Pelle Larsson. And that's a missed 3 for Anthony Edwards. Ball's knocked loose, but it's recovered by Miami, and that's going to be another foul on Anthony Edwards. Ant-Man pleading his case, but I don't think the referees care about that. Julius Randle's coming off the bench and entering the game for Minnesota. And Anthony Edwards looks like he's heading to the back. I think he's heading to the back to be evaluated. All right, here comes Davion Mitchell. Mitchell missing the basket. Rebound by Julius Randle. And here comes Mike Conley. Conley being guarded by Wiggins. And that ball goes out of bounds. Last touch by Minnesota. Nice defensive play by Wiggins. And we got ourselves a timeout. Minnesota leads this one 49-44. And we are back. Score is 49-44 Minnesota. Both teams right now have a pair of bigs that are just putting on a show right now. Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert on the offensive end. Meanwhile, we haven't seen much of that from Bam and Kalal, who are doing their work on the defensive end. Here comes Bam. Gives it to Davion Mitchell. Here comes Norman Powell. Gets his shot blocked by Gobert, but it will go out of bounds. Last touch by Minnesota, it will be Heat ball. All right, here comes Bam being guarded by Gobert. And that's going to be a 24-second violation on Miami, so it'll be Minnesota ball. I'm pretty sure that was a foul on Gobert somewhere. But, okay, Gobert got all ball. All right, here comes Minnesota. Dante DiVincenzo, I think he got fouled. I think that one's going to be on Tyler Hero. No, it's going to be Rudy Gobert going to the line for 2 free throws. Gobert knocks down the first. All right, we see Anthony Edwards back on the bench for Minnesota. And Rudy Gobert makes both free throws. So we now have ourselves a 7-point game. Here comes Davion Mitchell. Out to Wiggins for 3. And Chief Andrew Wiggins 3 for Miami. So right now it's a 4-point game. Now it's a 6-point game. After that, that dunk from McDaniels. Here comes Davion Mitchell. Mitchell flying in, missing the layup. Rebound by Minnesota. Here comes Mike Conley. Dante DiVincenzo, corner 3, misses it. Rebound by Miami. Rudy Gobert wanted a foul. And that's a no-go for Norman Powell. Mike Conley missing that uncontested 3. Here comes Tyler Hero. Hero being guarded by Conley. Hero backing him down. And he gets the basket and will go to the line for the and 1. Good to see Tyler Hero back in playing form for Miami. Thought we would never see him again. And Tyler Hero knocks down the and 1, and we have ourselves a 3-point game. Tyler Hero now with 10 points, shooting 80% from the field. Right, here comes Mike Conley. And that's going to be a foul on Davion Mitchell. A shoving foul. Alright, Mike Conley goes to the line for 2 free throws. Conley makes the first. And Mike Conley goes 1 of 2 from the line, but the rebound is recovered by Julius Randle. And there's a 3 from Dante DiVincenzo. So now the game goes up to 7. Here goes Pelle Larsson. Gives it to Wiggins. Wiggins. He gets fouled and will go to the line for 2 free throws. Both teams right now are in the bonus. All right, here comes Wiggins. He makes the first. And Andrew Wiggins makes both free throws. So it's now a 5-point game. Andrew Wiggins has 10 points in this game, shooting 3 for 8 from the field. Ball's knocked loose, recovered by Minnesota, and they get the layup. Jaden McDaniels on that one. So now it's a 7-point game. Here comes Pelle Larsson. Larsson being guarded by Gobert. Here comes Norman Powell, flying through the lane, and he gets the layup, and will go to the line for the and one. And Norman Powell missing the and one opportunity. Here comes Minnesota. Mike Conley has it. And he gets the basket. It's now a 7-point lead. And that will end the second quarter with Minnesota leading 61-54. The first half was back and forth between both teams until it wasn't. I mean, late in the second quarter is when Minnesota went on that run led by Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards. And of course, Rudy Gobert having some points of his own, and so did Jaden McDaniels. One thing I'm hoping for Miami heading into the second half is we get to see more involvement on offense for Bam Adebayo and Kelly Ware, because so far Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert have been answering on the offensive end, and we need some offensive production from Bam and Ware right now, because it seems like they're not doing much other than just defense and rebounding, which is fine. But they also need to get themselves involved on the other end of the floor. So I'm hoping we get to see that in the second half. And Norman Powell so far, he's been electric. He's been an offensive one-man show. Of course, Tyler Hero coming back also helps. But still, Norman Powell has been an offensive one-man show that cannot be ignored. And he's been doing it all for the Heat on offense. So right now, it's halftime. If you have any questions concerning Miami Heat basketball or NBA basketball or any current events, feel free to ask me or drop a comment and I'll answer you guys right away. So right now, it's halftime. score 61-54 in favor of Minnesota. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. The third quarter already on the way. And Minnesota having a 7-point lead over Miami, 63-56. Had to take care of some business, but we are back for this game. Alright, Miami has the ball. And that's going to be a foul on Dante DiVincenzo. Alright, Miami will have it side out. Here comes Davion Mitchell, gives it Norman Powell, and Powell gets the layup. Miami trails by 5 in this game. Alright, here comes Anthony Edwards. And he knocks down the 3. Anthony Edwards gives Minnesota a large lead right now. 8-point lead for the Wolves. And here comes Davion Mitchell for 3. He misses it. Rebound by Gobert. And here comes Dante DiVincenzo. He gives it to Anthony Edwards. Edwards back out to DiVincenzo for 3. And Dante DiVincenzo, 3 for Minnesota. The Wolves lead by 11. Alright, here comes Miami. Alright, out to Bam. And Bam missing that basket. Rebound by Minnesota. And Timberwolves. That's gonna be a foul on the Heat. This one's gonna be on Bam. All right. Looks like everything is going Minnesota's way right now in this game. Bam is none too pleased about those fouls, so that will send Rudy Gobert to the line for 2 free throws. Oh, so it looks like it's going to be a side out for Minnesota instead. No free throws for Rudy Gobert. All right, here comes Jaden McDaniels. Gives it to Anthony Edwards. Here comes Julius Randle. Guarded by Wiggins. Ball rims out. Rebound by Kelly Ware. Here comes Bam. Missing the step back jumper. Rebound by Julius Randle. And here comes the Wolves again. And that's going to be an alley-oop for Rudy Gobert. And that's going to lead to a timeout for Miami. This one is starting to get away from the Heat. And their offense is nowhere to be found in this one. Rudy Gobert is soaring over both Bam Adebayo and Kelly Ware. Miami needs its bigs to show up right now as the Wolves lead 71-58. All right, we are back. Score is 71-58 in favor of Minnesota. The Wolves right now have been dominating the third quarter. Miami really needs to step it up right now. Here comes Norman Powell. Gives it to Bam. Bam with another miss. His percentage continues to go south. All right, here comes Julius Randle. Oh, slip and fall, and hopefully he didn't hurt himself. Julius Randle almost slipped and fell, but nothing bad, but nothing serious. Right now, Minnesota still has the ball. Anthony Edwards kicks it out to DiVincenzo, out to Randle, and Randle gets the uncontested basket. Right now, it's a 15-point lead for Minnesota. Here comes here comes Wiggins. Bam, uncontested three, and he knocks it down. Finally, we get something from Bam Adebayo in this game. Hopefully, we get more of it. Here comes Gobert, being guarded by Kelly Ware. As a three, Anthony Edwards missing that one. Rebound by Bam. Bam kicks it out to Norman Powell. For three, it's an air ball. Recovered by Kelly Ware. Kicks it out to Davion Mitchell. Here comes Davion, guarded by Anthony Edwards. And Davion Mitchell gets the basket, and we now have ourselves a 10-point game. Here comes the Ant-Man, being guarded by Norman Powell. Edwards kicks it out to DiVincenzo. Out to Randle. Back to DiVincenzo. Back to Randle. Randle goes for the three. Nope. Kicks it out to Anthony Edwards, and he knocks down the three. It's a corner three, and we have ourselves a 13-point game. Here comes Kelly Ware. Gives the ball to Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell goes in for the layup. And Mitchell will go to the line for the and one. That foul is going to be on DiVincenzo. And Davion Mitchell missing that and one opportunity. And here comes the Wolves. All right, here comes Anthony Edwards. Missing that basket. Rebound by Andrew Wiggins. Here comes Bam. Bam recovers the ball. No, and that's going to be a foul on Miami. And it's going the other way for Minnesota. Miami wants a challenge, but it looks like they may not get it. Miami thought they had the loose ball, but it turns out it's going to be Minnesota's ball. All right, here comes Anthony Edwards, backing him down. Edwards missing the basket. Here comes Miami. Bam has the ball. Gives it to Norman Powell. Here comes Powell. Kicks it out. That's a three. And Nikola Jovic, three for Miami. Love that for him. All right, here comes Anthony Edwards. Nikola Jovic so far has 6 points in this game. And there's another basket from the Ant-Man. So now a 10-point game for Minnesota. Here goes Tyler Hero. Gives it to Bam. Back to Tyler Hero. Hero being guarded by the Ant-Man. The Ant-Man finds Bam. Bam missing the basket. Rebound by Miami. Here comes Tyler Hero. Pump fakes. Misses the basket. Rebound by Gobert. Here comes McDaniel. McDaniel with a spin. And he gets the basket under the rest, and he will go to the line for the N1. That was a nice basket opportunity for McDaniels. And McDaniels will go to the line for the N1. McDaniels knocks down the N1. So we now have ourselves a 13-point game. And here comes Norman Powell flying through the lane. Loses the ball. And that was last touched by Miami, so it'll be Minnesota's ball again. The Heat's offense right now is not looking so good. The Heat's offense right now has been sloppy, if not non-existent. Here comes McDaniels, getting the reverse layup. Or not. So it looks like it's gonna be Heat ball. So they're saying it's gonna be an offensive foul on Minnesota. Or rather out of bounds. Not sure. And that's going to be a foul on Minnesota. That one's going to be on McDaniels. All right, here comes Tyler Hero missing that long three-pointer. Rebound by Gobert. Here comes Anthony Edwards. Edwards being guarded by Bam. Here comes McDaniels again. Rebound by Miami. Tyler Hero has the ball. Tyler Hero going through traffic, and he misses the layup again. And that's going to be a foul on Miami. McDaniels will go to the line for 2 free throws. That one's going to be on Wiggins. McDaniels missing the first free throw. And McDaniels goes 1 of 2 from the line. So right now it's a 14-point game. Jaden McDaniels right now with 14 points, shooting 50% from the field. Norman Powell kicks it out to Hero. Here comes Hero. And he gets the basket. So right now it is a 12-point game. Here comes Mike Conley. Gives it to Julius Randle. Randle guarded by Bam. Here comes McDaniels, guarded by Hero. The spin. Misses the basket. Rebound by Bam. Here comes Bam. Gives it to Andrew Wiggins. Nikola Jovic for 3. Misses it. Rebound by Wiggins. Wiggins gets his shot blocked, and here come the Wolves. Here goes Ant-Man. The Ant-Man gets his shot blocked, but that ball will go out of bounds. Last touch by Miami. And there comes Anthony Edwards again, missing the basket. Rebound by Norman Powell. Here comes Bam. Gives the ball to Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero kicks it out to Pelle Larsson. And Larsson gets tangled up. And that's going to be a fourth foul on Anthony Edwards. And Dante DiVincenzo will come in the game for Anthony Edwards. And Anthony Edwards is leaving the game again, heading to the back to be evaluated. Hopefully Miami can capitalize on this one. Alright, here comes Tyler Hero. Hero putting up a horrible shot, and here come the Wolves again. Julius Randle directing traffic. Gives it to Naz Reid. Here comes Naz Reid. Missing that one. Rebound by Miami. Here comes the Heat in a fast break hurry. That's a three. No go for the Heat. And we're gonna have ourselves a timeout. Both teams are off kilter, but Minnesota still has the lead, 82-70. And we are back. Score is 82-70. Right now, Rudy Gobert, he's nearing a double-double with 8 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Going 3 for 3 from the field. Bam Adebayo and Kelly Ware really need to step it up against him. Not just him, but also against Julius Randle. So right now, Minnesota has the ball. Dante DiVincenzo will bring it up for the Wolves. Here goes Mike Conley. Mike Conley misses the three. Rebound by Bam. And here come the Heat. Tyler Hero has it. Gives it to Jovic. Back to Davion Mitchell. Davion. No go. And Miami's offense continues to look out of sync. But their defense looks good so far. Oh my goodness, what has happened to Miami's offense? And Nas Reed gets the layup, and we have ourselves a 14-point game again. Here comes Jovic. And he will go to the line for 2 free throws. Man, this has been a rough stretch for Miami's offense. They haven't had any rhythm. They've been getting beat off to the breaks by Minnesota's defense. So something has to give in this regard. Plus, Anthony Edwards is not on the floor with 4 fouls. So you would think the Heat would have to capitalize. Jovic knocks down the first. And he goes 1 of 2 from the line. So it's a 13-point game. And here comes. That's a missed 3 for Minnesota. Let's see if Miami can capitalize. Here comes Davion Mitchell. Mitchell passes it out to Pelle Larson. Larson to Hero. Hero to Mitchell. Mitchell to Jovic. And Jovic gets fouled again, and he will go to the line for 2 more free throws. All right, here we go. Jovic makes the first. And Jovic makes both free throws. So right now it's an 11-point game. All right, here comes Mike Conley. Gives it to Nas Reed. Here goes Julius Randle backing down Davion Mitchell. Julius Randle almost lost the ball. And Julius Randle knocks down a rainbow 3. He shot that from St. Paul, Minnesota. And Tyler Hero answers that with a basket. It's now a 12-point lead for Minnesota. And Dante DiVincenzo, a 3 for Minnesota. So it's now a 15-point lead for the Wolves. Here goes Tyler Hero. And Tyler Hero gets the basket. It's now a 13-point game. Tyler Hero right now with 16 points. And Dante DiVincenzo again. A 3 for the Wolves. It is a 16-point lead for Minnesota. Here comes Davion Mitchell. Davion flying in. Gives it to Pelle Larson. And that 3 misses. And that will end the third quarter. A brutal stretch of offense for Miami with some good flashes of defense. Meanwhile, Minnesota, they found their rhythm on offense as well as defense. The Wolves lead 93-77. And we are back, ready to begin the fourth quarter. Minnesota leads 93-77. Here's a little fourth quarter follow-up for tonight's game. Norman Powell's been leading the way for Miami's offense, but right now the offense has been stagnant. Meanwhile, the Wolves have been finding their pace on the floor. Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, even Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid have been hitting some baskets. So right now, it's the fourth quarter. Minnesota has the ball, and Miami are on defense. Because Naz Reid gives Minnesota coming up short on that one. And that's going to be a foul on the Wolves, and that will be heat ball. All right, here comes Davion Mitchell. Kicks it out to Norman Powell. Here comes. And that's going to be an offensive foul on Miami. So that will be back to Minnesota. Jovic got way too overzealous with that screen, and he shoved off. All right, another rebound. No. All right. It goes out of bounds. Last touch by Minnesota. It'll be heat ball. Here comes Nikola Jovic. Gives it to Hero. To Norman Powell. Powell driving in. Almost lost the ball. Gives it to Kelly Ware, and he comes up short. Rebound by Minnesota. All right, here comes Naz Reid. Naz gives it to Jaden McDaniels for the thunderous jam. And right now it's an 18-point lead for Minnesota. All right, here comes Tyler Hero. Gives it to Norman Powell. Davion Mitchell. The step back. And that's another miss. Rebound by Naz Reid. Here come the Wolves again. Bones Highland has it. He kicks it out to Naz Reid. Naz Reid being guarded by Jovic. Recovered by Rudy Gobert for the rebound. Stolen away by Miami. So far the defense is doing some good things, but we haven't not seen much of the offense. And that's going to be rimmed out by Nikola Jovic. Here comes Bones Highland. Gives it to DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo back to Bones Highland. Bones Highland being guarded by Norman Powell. That's going to be out of bounds. Last touch by Miami. And looking from that last dunk, Kelly Ware wanted nothing to do with that McDaniels dunk. And there's McDaniels again. Missing that long three. Rebound by Minnesota. Here comes Bones Highland. Guarded by Davion Mitchell. Here he comes again. Bones Highland. Step back, misses it. Rebound by Miami. All right, the Heat's defense so far has been decent. And oh my God, another miss. And Miami's offense continues to go further south. What's it going to take for Miami to get back on a more potent offense against Minnesota tonight? Rebound by Kelly Ware. A corner three. And that was a very terrible shot. Here comes Bones Highland. And he knocks down the uncontested three, and that's going to call for a timeout. Eric Spoelstra has to be furious, livid. And I would be too, as Minnesota leads 98-77. And we are back. This game so far has been one-sided as Minnesota leads 98-77. The Heat can't catch a break on offense whatsoever, even though their defense has been doing much of the dirty work. And so far, this Heat team continues to struggle, even without Jaime Jaquez Jr., who is nursing an injury. You would think in a game like this, his offense would be much needed. Here comes Tyler Hero now. And Norman Powell gets the basket. So far, right now, it's been an uphill battle for Miami. Here comes Gobert. Here's the ball to Anthony Edwards. That's an uncontested three. That's a miss for Bones Highland. And that's going to be a foul on Naz Reid. So it will be a Heat ball. All right, the Heat catch another break. Let's see if they can capitalize on it. All right, here comes Davion Mitchell. Mitchell gives the ball to Norman Powell. Finds it to Tyler Hero. And that one goes sailing out of bounds off of Hero's hand. So it will be Minnesota's ball again. Things right now are not looking so good for Miami. And they really need to get it together. All right, here comes Bones Highland. McDaniels uncontested three, and he knocks it down. All right, here comes Miami. The Heat are swinging the ball around. Almost lost the ball. And here comes Norman Powell. Delaware missing everything but the basket. And here comes Anthony Edwards. The Ant-Man for a long three. He misses it. But that's going to be an offensive foul on... That's going to be another offensive foul on the Timberwolves. Miami just can't seem to get right on offense. And so far, it has been a glaring tale. And another mystery. That one looked like it was forced by Tyler Hero. All right, and here comes Anthony Edwards. And the Ant-Man gets the hook. And here goes Tyler Hero. Another mystery. My goodness, what is going on with Miami's offense? Miami right now is looking stagnant. And there's a pull-up jumper. No go for Minnesota. Here comes Tyler Hero again. He gets fouled. Basket will not count, however. All right, Tyler Hero will go to the line for 2 free throws. Tyler Hero sinks the technical free throw. Thought he would have 2 free throws right there, but instead it's a technical free throw. And Miami's field goal percentage has gone down in this game. It was at 46%. Now it is at a very, very low 10%. Very terrible offense we're seeing from Miami right now. And here comes Pelle Larsson. Larsson kicks the ball to Norman Powell. Miami's still swinging the ball around. They give it back to Larsson for 3. He misses it. And it's rebounded by Minnesota. Alright, Bones Highland directing traffic. And you look at the 3-point percentage. Minnesota has shot 33% from behind the arc in this quarter. Miami, 0%. Miami's offense is dead in the water right now. Rebound by Rudy Gobert, and he gets the uncontested basket. And Gobert will go to the line for the and one. And Gobert knocks down the and one. So it's now a 26-point lead for the Wolves. And Drew Smith gets the hook. And finally, Miami gets some points on the board, but my God, this might be too little too late for them right now. Here comes Julius Randle. He gets fouled, and he will go to the line for 2 free throws. And Julius Randle makes the first free throw. And he makes both free throws. Here comes the Heat. Pelle Larsson gets fouled and will go to the line for 2 free throws. Oh no. So it's going to be Minnesota ball instead. Here comes Julius Randle again. Bones Highland. Missing that basket. But Rudy Gobert's for the rebound and putback, and that's going to prompt another Heat timeout. The Timberwolves are running away with this one. And this one is a 110-82 lead for Minnesota. And we are back. Score is 110 to 82 in favor of Minnesota. This game has gotten away from Miami. The offense is not there. The defense still doing its thing, but it can only do so much. Right now, here's Kasper Jakajunas in the game, as well as Myron Gardner. We also see, I think that's, Keshad Johnson now in the game, and as well as Simone Fontecchio. So a whole new squad lineup for Miami. And we also see Joe Ingles in the game for Minnesota, as well as Rob Dillingham. Joe Ingles getting a lot of support from a lot of Australian fans here tonight. And there's a three from Simone Fontecchio. He misses it. Rebound by Minnesota. Here comes Joe Ingles. Gives it to Dillingham. Here comes Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles pulls up. Nope. Gives it to Dillingham. Back to Ingles for three. And no-go Joe. Here comes Kasper Jakajunas. And that's going to be a foul on Joe Ingles. And that should send Myron Gardner to the line for 3 free throws. I'm sorry, for 2 free throws. My bad, 2 free throws. All right, Myron Gardner makes the first. And he makes both free throws. You know things are bad for Miami when they resorted to when they went deep into their bench and they getting more baskets than the rest of the team. Here comes Rob Dillingham. Okay, Dillingham, here he comes to the lane. Misses the layup, but Minnesota gets the putback. And here comes Kasper Jakajunas. He gets his shot blocked, but he goes to the line for 2 free throws. If only Miami inserted guys like Fontecchio and Jakajunas and even Keshad Johnson to keep the offensive energy and pace going for them. But again, too little too late. Kasper Jakajunas knocks down the first. And Jakajunas makes both free throws. And there's an uncontested dunk from Minnesota. Rob Dillingham with the assist. Here comes Myron Gardner. Kicks it out to Kelal Ware for the corner 3. And finally we get a corner 3 from Kelal Ware. What took so long? My goodness. And here comes Rob Dillingham. Gives it to Joe Ingles. And another layup for Minnesota. The Wolves are having their way with the Heat right now. Here comes Kelal Ware again. Kicks it all the way out to Myron Gardner. And Gardner gets the layup. Miami's bench so far, or rather their garbage time squad, they've been finding the basket more than the rest of the team. So far, things have not been looking good for Miami's offense. All right, and here come the Wolves again. Rebound by Miami. And that one goes sailing out of bounds. Another error pass for Miami, as Minnesota will have the ball in their possession again. All right, here comes Dillingham. Kicks it out. The rebound for Miami. Shaw loses the ball, and here comes Minnesota again. An uncontested fast break, and this might as well be the end right here. This one may be over. And that's a missed three for Yakajunas. All right, here comes Miami again. That's a three. That's a miss. Rebound from Minnesota. And hold on for a second. And that will do it. The final score is 122-94, Minnesota. Absolutely dreadful for this game. The offense was absolutely dreadful for this game. Miami came out looking like they had some offense under their feet. They went from shooting 46% in the first quarter to a very, very tepid 10% by the end of the game. And you know things are bad when the players who are assigned to garbage time are getting more buckets than you. And that's very shameful. That should not have happened. I mean, guys like Tyler Hero were missing baskets. Bam Adebayo wasn't getting involved much on offense. Kelly Ware, he only got involved in offense till late in the game. But even then, that was just one and done. And then Norman Powell, I know he led the way for this team, but he was missing shots as well. That was unacceptable, even for the Heat. Absolutely dreadful performance from Miami, and that's something that can't be tolerated whatsoever. I mean, it's a horrible loss for Miami. Especially, I mean, this kind of mirrors last Saturday night's game against Minnesota on the Heat's floor. I mean, just like that. Except the offense didn't click. Instead, the offense wasn't clicking, but the defense was doing its part. So, in that regard, I say the Heat needs to find some answers and fast, because that was horrible the way they played. And for the Heat, Norman Powell led the way with 21 points. Andrew Wiggins had 10 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. Tyler Hero came off the bench with 17 points. And one thing that jumps out to me on the scoreboard is how identical Bam Adebayo and Kelly Oure's numbers are. Both had 7 points and 11 rebounds each, but Bam had 3 assists, Kelly Oure with 2. And for the Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards led the way with 26 points. Jaden McDaniels had 19 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals, and 1 block. Dante DiVincenzo had 12 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Naz Reid came off the bench with 14 points. And we had a pair of double-doubles, the exact opposite of what we saw from Bam and Kalel. Julius Randle with 15 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. And Rudy Gobert with 13 points and 17 rebounds and 1 assist. A very terrible start for Miami's 4-game road trip. And something that's really going to be hammered home into their mindset during practice and video sessions. Because there's going to be a lot of video sessions where Eric Spoelstra is going to choose those guys out. But the next time we see the Heat, they're going to be in the Windy City once again to take on the Chicago Bulls. That game starts Thursday at 8, and you can catch that on NBA League Pass and on FanDuel Sports Network Sun. Again, Heat Bulls, Thursday at 8. And you can catch that on NBA TV, NBA League Pass, and FanDuel Sports Network Sun. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in for tonight's game. I know the play-by-play was kind of interrupted here and there due to personal reasons and other outside interferences, but I do apologize. But I do thank each and every one of you for tuning in and listening and keeping up with the game itself through me. I want to say take care of each other, love one another, look out for one another, be kind to one another, and always be thoughtful and kind, because you never know when that day comes. I'm Deron Butler, reminding you to always run through the paint. Thank you, love you guys, take care, and as always, go Heat.